Welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another backtesting video. So, we had sort out my microphone. We had a really good backtesting session yesterday, ending with a really good trade. So hopefully, again, you guys took away some really key notes from that session in terms of how I was able to determine the high probability setup and ultimately get involved in that move. Let me just double check. Yeah, so I got involved here. I think we probably saw candle print or something along those lines trade below here, but nonetheless, we got involved here and really happy with that trade. So one of the things that I don't often touch upon this early in the session, but if you've enjoyed the content so far, or if you've learning something, whether it's what to do, what not to do, not casual viewer, if you just wouldn't mind just giving either the video a thumbs up or just subscribe to the channel, that would be really appreciative, as I want to grow the channel a little bit, bring awareness to these types of things. As I said before, fundamentally, I want to ensure that people get a really true reflection of backtesting. It's not this whole click environment that you become accustomed to seeing on social media, or with sort of hindsight examples of the best cherry picked examples. It's not that. It's about going through the process properly, taking your time, asking questions, debating scenarios, and then getting involved, and then seeing what transpires, and then managing the trade accordingly, and so on. That's what's important in terms of backtesting. So hopefully you're getting some real value in that, and you're able to take some stuff away from it. So if that's the case, fantastic. Okay, so we've come to the end of Thursday. 12:30 to the last piece. So we've finished trade. We're gonna just play price hunt a little bit just to see what happens by the end of the session, and then I'll make a decision on. I think we're most likely going to fast forward to Tuesday of next week as opposed to trading Friday. As there's no news on Friday, we've hit a pretty good target for the week. Want to aim for high probability setups, so we'll sort of see. So as we can see now, price is trading at around the. In fact, we'll go out to the hourly. So it's trading at about at the. Actually, no, I tell you, we'll stick at the 15. At the BPRs, there is still a strong likelihood that one of them is going to trade through their previous day's low. But with institutional order flow currently being bearish, that's obviously why we managed to secure this expansive move to the downside. So I just want to touch on something very quickly. So in terms of this setup here, with sorry, bear with me. We already had, from a high time frame standpoint, we already had the purge of a H1 liquidity pool. So we've seen that here. So in terms of the move lower, we don't necessarily need to see that. But as we started to want to see the secondary cracking correlation, well, in that case there is where we wanted to see 15-minute. Now, I have marked up the hourly liquidity pool, for instance, on LQ, but ultimately we can see that we purged M15 liquidity pools en route to this H4 bearish order block, and that would have sufficed in terms of trade for if we were going to engage on NQ. So we had the M15. So we've already had the H1, which was the purge as part of the high time frame cracking correlation. As part of the low time frame cracking correlation, we want to see. Ideally, we want to tag a H1 liquidity pool. Absolutely. Excuse me. And that wasn't the case. So at a minimum, we want to see an M15 liquidity purge at least. But to be perfectly honest, because we've got this high time frame framework traded up into the H4 bearish order block, that in itself should confirm certainly a likelihood of lower prices. So we just ultimately wanted to wait for confirmation that the market wanted to trade lower. We saw that, and then we got involved there. So anyway, let's get back into the M15, see where the session is going to end. So we're just going to sort of play on, and then I'll take a note on. Unlikely it's going to be Friday. It's most likely going to be Tuesday. So 230. I want to see an expansion lower now. There we go. A lot of people say macro windows and stuff like that. I don't really, sort of pay too much to that, but each to their own. So we've got this purge, excuse me, here. If we go out to a slightly higher time frame, probably the H4, we can see how NQ's hit that liquidity pool, trading lower. We took our profits, so we're happy with that. But what we're seeing here is how NQ has traded through the BPR, which essentially is indicating we're likely going to trade down here. As we can see, ES is not quite there, so we could see a cracking correlation at the lows. So we'll continue till the end of the session. We're at 3:30, so not long left. There we go. Okay, so end of session. So to me, the likelihood is a continuation of lower prices. That's what I would bargain for here. So looking forward to next week's economic calendar. We only have Fed chair speaking on Thursday, so there's absolutely no news other than that, which sort of to some extent represents low probability conditions. However, we know, or we believe, that the expansion of the weekly candle is likely to occur between Tuesday and Thursday. So that's where we want to sort of frame the bulk of our position, or potential position. So excuse me. So that's what we're potentially going to look at doing. Yeah, I think we're gonna fast forward now to Tuesday of next week for this session. So we're going to let's go to next day open. Let's go to next day open. Oh, we got the reversal. Look at price action was extremely choppy. Extremely choppy. Look at that. That's something you would want to see me engaging, but nonetheless. Okay, so that's Monday. So we want to go to next session. It's Monday and then next session again. Okay, so it's Tuesday. So now we can clear the charts. I'm going to go out to the daily time frame. In fact, we'll probably just go to the weekly just to have a quick look. That's me. Okay. So we just want to have a quick look for clear liquidity pools, imbalances, that sort of stuff. So we can see that we're inside of this weekly BISI on all three. NQ certainly traded down to the lows of that. Excuse me. So first things first, we've got obviously this liquidity pool here. Okay, so we're going to mark that in, and we're going to mark that in across the three asset classes. Now, admittedly, price is quite some way from that, but still important. And just to complete the range, we'll do that for here. Obviously, you can see that we had this SMT at the lows here at one point, and that candle there. Okay, and so we know we're inside of this SIBI, so I just want to have a look at and the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to just have a look at that range. Naturally less so for YM, but nonetheless. Okay, so on this imbalance in here. I want the aligned imbalance on NQ. So okay. So now we can get into the crux. So there's Monday. We've obviously got this high here, which is not the previous week's high. I don't believe anyway. Let's have a look. No, previous week's high would have been there. So I want to note that swing high, which is previous Thursday. So it's just a daily high. And as you can see, it's within the last 4 days or so, which again I like to make reference to. I know if you look at ICT's Purge and Revert content, I'm talk about last 3 days. So we can see cracking correlation at the lows there, which we want to. So that's Tuesday. Want to mark that. The market isn't confirmed yet, so I'll need to see the lower time frame to determine its validity. So we'll do that for now. But we've obviously note this sell side liquidity purge. And want to note this low, that is the aligned low. Now I often do say a cracking correlation between ES and NQ to me is has a stronger weighting. So now small imbalance in there, but yeah, there is a tiny imbalance in there. So just see that the as you can see, that could present upside target. Take that over to here. Where we have that imbalance. Okay. Okay, so that's what we're looking at there. I want to drop down to the H4. So we had during the same day cracking correlation there, and that appeared to be the catalyst of the expansion higher. So I want to note that candle. Now that doesn't mean that, oh, okay, now we long the market. Doesn't mean that at all. This would be a propulsion block. Okay. It does. Yeah, this doesn't mean that now we just long the market. It just means I'm just taking note of this high probability area. As you can see, the market traded down into it, traded all the way down into it, and then we had this high probability correlation here as well, supporting higher prices. But it's Tuesday's price action. We just want to first thing is okay. Sorry, I just forgot myself for a second there. Okay, so now I want to see Monday's price action. Started there. It's a bit of an interesting one. Not really seeing much symmetry between some of the lows and highs. But let's concentrate on ES and NQ. And we could argue that yes, there's a here, but if we look at NQ, that's higher. So I'm not classifying that. I'm not classifying this high. I mean this high, sorry. So what I am going to allude to is that liquidity pool here. I'll just take up to here for now. But this, as I've mentioned before, this does not carry as a significant high as previous day's high or anything like that. It just doesn't. But from an intraday standpoint, it probably does. But in terms of a macro longer term move, no, it doesn't. So but it's important to note nonetheless. Okay. Not really seeing much. So we've got obviously this imbalance, which is now inverted following Kraken correlation, which we can confirm. So let's just confirm that. I do believe we'll likely revisit this area, but for now, we'll leave as is. Okay. So let's start our analysis. So daily outlook, it should be, I think, on the 19th. Yeah. So IOF, I'm going to go out to the daily. Now, the interesting thing is we are at an imbalance on both. If we were to look at this imbalance on the weekly time frame, let's just do that. What we can see is how NQ is really sort of stretching that boundary. Okay. So we get that in line. So we can see that NQ hasn't violated the low of it, but it's looking rather likely. Looking quite likely. Now, did the SMT form pre, which it did, form pre the true week open? So that's taken effect from the previous one. So I'd be looking for a new Kraken correlation, if I'm honest. Can play the continuation with that one, but no, I much prefer a new high time frame Kraken correlation. But anyway, institutional order flow currently is bearish. And that's to both, because obviously we saw the purge of this, creating a BPR. And in fact, creating a BPR on both. So we can note this. So the reality is we wouldn't want to see price trade to this level. Okay. So we have that BPR there. So all of which was supporting lower prices. So currently relative to the daily and weekly time frame, near term IOF is bearish. Which was confirmed following the violation of the BCD and BC Weekly. Confirmed also by the BPR Weekly. Right, so So relative to the daily, we've seen, relatively speaking, symmetrical price action on the way down. Okay. First cracking correlation appears to be at this low, could be significant. So relative to the daily time frame, I've noted old highs being manipulated whilst old lows being displaced through, supporting the idea of lower prices. Okay. Now I don't really need to venture into the H4 to confirm order flow. The H4 potentially has confirmed as a if you will, as a confluence, has confirmed. Well, let's note it. Let's note it just for argument's sake. So we'll say the H4 TF near term has switched bullish following the violation of the CBH4. Okay. H4, which was initiated by the high time frame SMT at the lows, supporting high prices. Okay, so what we're saying here is, if we come here, is that there which we'll just note for the time being. Now again, this is just purely a confluence, it's not a confirmation. Okay, it's just a confluence that we've done that, but we've had the confirmation of probably hourly displacement, and we've got the H4 change state of delivery. So, but this is just a very visual confluence. Excuse me. Okay, so this, again, I don't use, just want the inversion fair value gap more so for a visual representation of that. Okay. So ERL and IRL. So we want to just drop back out to the weekly and have a look. So weekly, we obviously purged the high, traded down, we said likely to be here. So now we're here, we need to see some form of confluence. So if we're basing this on the weekly, so relative to the weekly TF, now remember this is daily SMT here, okay? If we look at the daily time frame, you could argue that relative to the daily time frame we could still trade lower. Now again with the weekly, we then queue sort of trading close to through, you'd want to see a weekly liquidity pool here to support the idea of higher prices. So therefore ES could find support here, trade higher, and NQ could purge the liquidity pool and trade higher, and it's not there. So that to me supports the idea of continued lower prices. But you know, let's just note what we see. So relative to the weekly time frame, the market purged the high external range liquidity before repricing lower aggressively, targeting and trading to the internal range liquidity pool in the form of the BC weekly. So should the market trade to and through, coupled with institutional order flow being bearish and a potential high time frame cracking correlation at the highs, this could support the market targeting the old low weekly external range liquidity. Okay, now the other thing to note is, for me, this level here is the key level where you really want to see this sort of SMT form to seek higher prices, because we've traded through that. Grant the next level, unfortunately, is this low. So could we still go higher? Yes. Near term relative to the daily, if we drop down to the daily, we could absolutely continue lower. We have purged daily liquidity in here, so that could set the near term move higher. There's a lot of stacked liquidity above. You know, so it is it is an interesting scenario. If I was to see some form of confirmation now, I do. I should really look at what week are we in. Week. Hold on. So this is week 3, week 2, week 1. So we want that one. Okay, then yeah, so that candle there. Okay. Okay. Candle is there. Bear with me a second, folks. Oh dear. Okay. Yeah, so we are below the true month open, which again is a positive thing, and would support potential higher prices. I thought, did I not? Let me just put that back in. Maybe I cleared them. And obviously that's that low there. Okay. Right, let's get back into this. Um, so although, yeah, I do think that potentially the longer term view could be trading down to this low, not necessarily going to put all my eggs into that basket, because if we're looking at potential SMT, well, there is potentially this here. Now, again, that's, something as a potential. If you're looking at this level here, and we've purged some daily liquidity pool, that is feasible. However, the reason why I don't like it is this is, if we were looking at this from a sort of previous cycle on the way down, then I'd be looking at that with high efficacy of of supporting a potential move. But because this is an old standing imbalance, I'd want to see a little bit more than just this Kraken correlation. Now, this does support it. This Kraken correlation does support this idea. But I don't want to get too drawn onto, say, this Kraken correlation here. I want to see what supports this Kraken correlation to see higher prices, if that's where we're going to go, before a potential move lower. Okay, so there's a few scenarios there that we can work with. So let's drop down to the H4, look at the SPs. I'm just going to get our highlighted. So we've obviously marked up Monday low, and this Monday low. That was the aligned, which got so we are going to oh dear. Okay, so what we're alluding to here is the Kraken correlation at these lows. As we can see, YM purged its Asia range, whilst ES and NQ failed to do so. Could support the idea of higher prices, absolutely. Not necessarily focusing on that, mind, but it is there. And just for reference, it's this here. We'll go here. Which occurred during the, looks like the PM session. So it is, technically speaking, it's this low, because if the Asian session's here, it was this candle on. See, right now we've got symmetry at this candle here. There's symmetry. this candle there isn't. So technically speaking, what we want to do is like that. You can draw it like that if you want, just a bit messy. Draw it like that. That one's a little bit better. Yeah, let's draw it there. It's a bit messy, but what the hell. Okay, so that's the lows. There is no high currently, so let's make a note of that. So I've noted the clean and clear swing point at the lows. Sorry, swing point below current price, referencing the previous day's low. This has formed below the current true week open. Where near-term liquidity would reside. If this key price level were to be purged, this could support higher prices. Okay. So TO. Currently all members are at. Currently all members are trading at their respective true week open. Therefore, currently low probability conditions. Okay. So now, Kraken correlation. I've noted the high time frame SMT at the lows, supporting higher prices. This high time frame Kraken correlation formed below the previous true week open, supporting higher prices. Now, it's important to know that we have got, this is balanced price so far in here. It's all balanced. There were inefficiencies here. It's come up and rebalanced all of this. Right, and now that it's rebalanced all of this, technically speaking, it could move lower. Now, it may want to offset some liquidity that it's purged here. And if it's going to offset some liquidity here, then the market's likely going to trade to this level here to offset liquidity here, if it wishes to. If it wants to engineer further liquidity at this low, then we could see the market as engineered liquidity, people supporting the move higher, then it comes down, purges the liquidity here. Maybe less so on YM, then move higher. So we've got a few scenarios that we just got to be mindful of. So supporting higher prices. Ideally, I would like to see a newly formed high time frame Kraken correlation before engaging the market. But again, if you get the correct signatures to support higher prices, then something to take into consideration, but I would prefer to see new. So we want to drop down to the H1 time frame now. Establish and analyze what's been it's interesting. Okay, so just gonna have a look up here. So we've got this high, the Asian range. Got an Asian range low here as well. So market appears to be in a tight consolidation. So I'm just going to mark this up, kind of forming a BPR. Now, before I do anything, I'm just going to move price on to the beginning of the next session. Okay. So all three members have purged that low. They all appear to be heading towards the previous day's low as well. So, and obviously seeking the liquidity below here, which that's going to be interesting as well. So, game plans. The reality is if we see a cracking correlation at the lows, at the previous day's low, that for me could support an idea to attack the Asian range high. So, number one, with price being below the true week open, if we note high time frame cracking correlation at the previous day's low, this could set the stage for higher prices if confirmed by low time frame confluences and confirmations. Okay, so that's kind of the only model I'm looking at. Why? Because all models have symmetrically purged this previous day's low. Now they've traded into this inversion fair value gap, which again, I always make the point that I'm not really that sort of interested by the inversion fair value gap. Now I just want to drop out to the 4 hour a second. Yeah, so I'm looking at this, and this inversion fair value gap, I'm not really that bothered, so I'm going to take that out now. That was just more for reference. that interested in it. We've traded deeper into the H4 OB, but again, I made the point that I wanted to see a new high time frame crack correlation. We might not see it, but with symmetrical price action below the Asian range low, I would want the. I mean, the market is well within its rights to trade. Sorry, let me just go out to the H4 to trade higher. It's there, but no, I wouldn't be looking at that. So the market's well within its rights to trade higher. However, it's not a trade that I would take. Doesn't meet any of my model criteria. So yeah, I'm just going to remain on the sidelines until the market does something that I think forms an edge and allows me to potentially engage in a trade idea. Right now, I'm not seeing that, so therefore, not seeing it means we stay on the sidelines and we wait. So that's the only game plan that I'm looking at. We've got obviously. Let's just get some. This is close proximity, so let's just get that back. So that's a close proximity liquidity pool. So I would envisage if we were even fashioning a move up to the old high, then to the BSL London, then the likelihood is we are going to take out that Asia range high, which is the H4 liquidity pool. So move these, as you can see here, and in YM's case would be a move to the previous day's high and potentially beyond. Okay, so we've got obviously a low here, which could be of interest. Again, if we're going to purge this low here, then the H1 liquidity pool, although there are others, is important, but this would be the near-term one. That's why I'm keen to see what could transpire here. Now, again, I'm not going to force any trade idea. We've got the week now. Ideally, we want to, our aim, as I've said before, is at least one solid good trade per week. So if you bear that in mind, I'm not in a rush to take the trade. The trade has got to make absolute sense for me to want to engage, right? So that's the only game plan I'm looking at currently. As I said, there isn't really anything else. Even if you wanted to remotely look at this high and say, oh look, there's a cracking correlation here, and blah. No, that's not for me. So let's move this on. We're going to drop down to the M15. As I said, we've got no news, so we're going to just monitor the equities open volatility. That could be the catalyst to form the cracking correlation, so we need to be mindful of that. I just need to know what that other blue line is. The H4 order block. Okay, so we're inside of that. Not too sure on the relevance of that right now, as we've sort of ventured deep. But let's work our way towards equities open. There is the 8:30 news embargo, but that's probably not going to be too important. So, does the market find support at this SIBI? It's the first thing. Traded quite high into it, so yeah, I wouldn't have thought so. Okay, so the market looks as though it's engineering liquidity below here. So So we're just going to monitor and wait. I want to get to probably about 9:15. We're at 8 o'clock, so we've got a lot of time. See what the market does. So we could see if it finds support now. Again, I'm not utilizing the inversion fair value gap. It's not. Okay, right, it's perfect. So market appears to be creating this high. I don't want to necessarily mark that off yet. I'm going to take off this inversion, if we will. Probably more so this wick was of more interest in terms of mean threshold and so on, but not too worried by that. We've obviously got the old low. We could form this high. We get into equities open, so we're going to drop down to 1 minute intervals. Again, the market's consolidating inside of that range that we've outlined, as we can see between here and here. So let's just, if we go to the H4, we're looking at these two key levels, so that high here and this low, and the market's forming inside of that. So let's continue. Getting towards equities open in 15 minutes time. Now, with the high time frame cracking correlation at the lows, I wouldn't be looking at this liquidity pool for anything particular. Although interestingly, here's the London low. Just looking at the times. So that. Okay. That changes the dynamic of things slightly, but we need to monitor all three pairs. We want to see if YM wants to trade below this previous day's low. That's the more likely scenario. Okay, so equities open, seeing a rejection wick. However, YM appears to want to trade higher, but let's see what happens. YM, yep, okay. Interesting. Okay, NQ. Right, so YM's trading up towards its previous day's high. It's purged its Asia range high. That doesn't form, in my opinion, a trade idea. I'm not keen on that, although NQ hasn't traded above its true week open as well, so certainly not keen on that trading idea. Okay, so now they're all above. YM has purged its previous day's high. ES and NQ now, ES purged its Asia range. NQ hasn't, but looking at that price action, let me just venture out to the hourly. I would be surprised to see if NQ didn't. So we've got the old high, which could well be a drawn liquidity, and that could be the catalyst for lower prices if traded to. That being said, there wasn't a low time frame cracking correlation here, so at the London low, so I would be anticipating the market to at some point come back down to this level. But let's continue and see what occurs. So we just closed the hourly candle. It's 9 o'clock. Oh. They've all now purged, so we've got symmetry at the highs. So now that would indicate to me that the old high here is the next likely drawn liquidity. Now that we've seen this displacement through NQ, yeah, quite aggressively approach that level. We've got potential fair value gap here. So that would be quite encouraging for higher prices. Okay. No BPRs or anything of that nature, but balanced price range there. It is balanced from here to here. It's all balanced. From this high down and up, that's all balanced now. So if the market was going to trade higher, fair value would be the high. But again, that's not a model for me, so let's continue. Let's just drop down to the 15-minute and continue. So I'm just going to venture out to the 5-minute. So we're at now New York lunch. YM, yeah, we still want to see a purge through that high. NQ struggling a little bit. Um, 34,794. So yeah, it didn't purge. So we would be looking for higher prices. But let's see. We're getting a lot of chop now during the PM session. Just going to venture out to here. See what we see, which is this imbalance there, which created SMT, if you will. So this hourly imbalance there, if we just mark this up, would be the catalyst to so this one here, and we could say, if you wanted, we could look at that there, imbalance. It's a very small imbalance in here, and then ultimately look at that key price level there. Oh. So if we went to have a look at this, we have obviously, let's just do this. We've got that liquidity liquidity pool purge there. That one there. And we'd also have a liquidity pool purge there. And excuse me. So we create the SMT at the lows, and so quite simply now, if we had this here, this order block here, on that level there, probably looking at this candle, if you will. So let's have a look. Yes, we're kind of looking at that candle. Although none of the order blocks were confirmed, so if you wanted to take, well, this order block would be here, sorry. So it'd be that candle there, confirm the order block, and then yes, you could, if you were trading ES, you could take that. But anyway, let's go back to the M15. Just thought I'd note that up, and then probably watch it blast down, and there you go. Okay, so let me just get rid of this. But as we can see, that's the imbalance where found support. Let's just get rid of that. Okay, so no trade taken. That's come to the end of the session. The irony is you sort of mark it up, but once this high time frame cracking correlation at the lows held inside of the H4 order block, which price traded into during the London session, you could half argue, is there a trade to be had here? No, I wanted to see a purge of this, which didn't occur. That high time frame SMT is still valid, but I wanted to see a purge of the low before engaging. However, once we had got above here with symmetrical price action, and we said it's likely going here, at that point was probably where I should have been stalking a potential trade idea. Now, if we sort of go back into here and have a look at what we sort of alluded to, I mean, the market probably presented, let's just go to 5. Like so. Once there, the market presented its trade, I mean, 2 to 1 was pretty much here, barely moved. So that being said, it's fine. We'll sort of we'll wait until the right idea comes along. But I'm going to leave this one here. Hopefully you guys took something away. Again, if you wouldn't mind liking the channel, liking the video, subscribing to the channel. But I'm going to leave this one here. Again, we're looking to frame a new high probability trade idea for this week. So we've started to see expansion on Tuesday. Had the market purged the London low, that would have changed the scenario significantly for me to engage in a trade higher below the true week open. However, that wasn't the case, so that's fine. We're just going to wait for a new trade idea to form. Obviously, as we can see here, market traded down into the H4 order block. SMT at the lows as well. So, you know, trade down below the new true week open. As I said, I wanted to see a new Kraken correlation form at the lows. That didn't occur. Yeah, that certainly didn't occur, but could have presented a trade idea. Absolutely. I mean, if you had got in there, this is more of a swing trading style, which is not my approach, but it's a trade idea there nonetheless. But anyway, hopefully you took something away from this one. If you wouldn't mind, as I say, liking the video, subscribing to the channel. I'm going to leave this one here, and guys, I will catch you in the next one.